Hi Ducks! Welcome back to another edition of DuckFlix. Today we are going to cover Unit 9, Lesson 9.4, Line Graphs. Let's take a minute to review the lesson scale. Now you'll notice that this lesson scale looks very similar to the last lessons that we covered, but this time specifically I want you to be able to create a line graph. So by the end of this lesson, we want you to be able to still utilize those skills that you learned to graph points in a coordinate plane in order to solve real-world mathematical problems and be able to display your data, but this time specifically by using a line graph. Go ahead and take a minute to pause the video and record your lesson scale. Let's take a look at the standards for mathematical practices. Remember, as we're going through these problems, you want to keep on going. You want to make sense of these problems and persevere. Second, you want to think what makes sense by reasoning. Next, we want to be able to model with mathematics. And in this case, you're going to show your thinking with graphing your data on a line graph. We are going to attend to precision. We're going to make sure that we check our work. We're going to look for patterns and make connections. And I think that's about it. All right, let's take a minute to explore our lesson vocabulary. Now, of course, we're going to have some review words from last time, but I've added 3 more new words that you're going to want to be familiar with. So our first word is line graph. Now, it's a graph that uses line segments, okay, so parts of a line, to show how data changes over time. This is really important. Data changes over time. That is what we're going to be looking at in this lesson. Secondly, we have the word scale. Okay, now this is different than our scale where we rate ourselves for our understanding of a lesson. In this instance, the word scale is a series of numbers placed at fixed distances that label your graph. So you may have your numbers starting at 0 and they may range all the way to 100. The scale would be 0 to 100. Whereas maybe your numbers don't start until 50, and maybe they go by 5s all the way to the number 80. Okay, that would be your scale of numbers, or series of numbers. And then lastly, we have intervals, and what that means is it's the difference between the values on the scale that are equal. So you may have an interval of 10, meaning you have one number that is 30, and say the next number is 40, your interval would be 10. Whereas you have one number that is 20, and your next number is 25, you would have an interval of 5. Okay, and we'll see how this works once we get into making our graphs. Okay, let's look at the I do problem. Okay, we have me, Miss Walker, and I want to measure the temperature of my pool to see when it would be warm enough for an afternoon swim. Okay, so I measured and recorded the temperature of the pool water 1 time each hour beginning at 8 o'clock a.m. We want to use the data in the table below to create and analyze a line graph. Okay, so we're going to use our ordered pairs just like we did in the last lessons. Okay, but this time we're going to be creating a line plot. So we're actually going to be connecting these plotted points and determining a change over time. So let's see what I want to do. I want to measure temperature of my pool. Okay, and that's going to obviously be in degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, degrees Fahrenheit, that's what it says in my table. And I'm going to measure and record the temperature of this pool 1 time each hour. Okay, 1 time each hour, and I'm going to begin at 8 o'clock a.m. Okay, so from 8 o'clock, then 9 o'clock, then 10 o'clock, and so on until I take my last measurement at 1 o'clock p.m. So we're going to use the data in the table to make ordered pairs, and then we're going to graph them over on the coordinate grid. Okay, or the first quadrant of the coordinate plane. You can say it either way. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up our graph. And we know that the time, Okay, these are going to be the x coordinates, and they're going to be on the x-axis. Okay, so over here we're going to have time in hours, okay, because they're in hour increments. And then over on the y-axis, these ones here are our y coordinates, and we are going to have temperature. I'm just going to put temp for short, and we're measuring in degrees Fahrenheit. And before we start setting up our numbers, I also want to make sure we don't forget to give the graph a title. Okay, so we are showing the temperature of the pool water. So up here, okay, I'm just going to put it off to the side. Just need to have it above the graph, temperature of pool water. Okay, and that's shown, I'm actually going to revise this. I'm going to say hourly temperature of pool water. You want to be very specific. It's the hourly temperatures of pool water. Okay, so now let's set up our x-axis. Okay, we have each hour starting at 8 o'clock. So we're going to have 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10, 11, 12, 1. Okay, now up on the y-axis, okay, this might be something a little bit new to you, but we notice that 68 degrees Fahrenheit is the lowest number that we're going to be working with. So what you can do is you can show a break in the scale, okay? The scale is our new vocabulary word that tells you the beginning number and the ending number of the range of numbers we're going to put on this y-axis. So you can put actually like a little zigzag line right there, and that shows us that we're not going to start our first number until something that is closer to 68. So if we look at 68 as the lowest number, okay, we have 68, and then we look through our data, we see that 85 is the highest number. Okay, well these numbers are not that far apart. So for our purposes today, what I'm going to do is we're going to just simply count by a scale. Okay, scales are intervals. Sorry, I'm going to count by intervals of 5s. Okay, intervals means the difference between each number on the y-axis. So our scale is going to range starting from 60. Okay, we're going to start, oops, I did not want the highlighter. So we're going to start here with 60. Now remember, this is 0, and this little zigzag line shows a break. Okay, we call that a break. And that just means that we're showing the person viewing the data that we're going to start at a number that is not close to 0. So we're going to start our scale at 60, and we're going to go in intervals of 5. So the next number is going to be 65. Okay, then we're going to go to 70. Then we're going to have 75. Then we're going to have 80. And then we're going to have 85. Now, I suppose that I could have spread these out a little bit more. We could have even gone by 2s, 3s, whatever you want, but I just picked 5 as our interval because it's easy to work with. Okay, now we're ready to plot our points on the coordinate grid. Okay, so we're going to work with our first ordered pair. Okay, and our ordered pair here is we're going to have 8 o'clock a.m. and we're going to go to 68. So 68 is going to be about there. Okay, that's going to be our first point. Okay, next we're going to go to 9 o'clock a.m. and now we're at 72. Okay, well 72 is not quite halfway between 70 and 75, so it's just a little bit below the halfway point. Okay, and once again, I don't really know why my coordinates are not cooperating. They're not sticking. Let's see. All right, hopefully those will stay. All right, now 10 o'clock a.m. We're going to go to 77. And 11, we're going to go to 79. And 12, we're going to go to 82. I think we got the idea. And 1, we're going to go to 85. Okay, and when we're working with a line graph, we're actually going to want to connect each plotted point into line segments. Okay, and what you can see here is a change over time. Okay, we see an increase in the temperature of the water. All right, so next let's analyze our data, because not only do we have to be able to graph and plot points, but we need to be able to make sense of what the data is telling us. So is the data showing a change over time? The answer is yes. Okay, we could see an increase. Okay, so yes, and increase. Okay, it's actually going up. We see the temperature rising and rising as the day goes on. Between which 2 hours was the temperature change the greatest? Okay, well, if you look at 68 to 72, okay, the difference there is 4 degrees Fahrenheit. From 72 to 75, it is 5 degrees Fahrenheit. From 77 to 79, it's 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And from 79 to 82, it's 3 degrees Fahrenheit. And for these last two temperatures, it is also 3 degrees Fahrenheit. So the greatest change is here, and that's 5 degrees. So between which 2 hours, we would say 9 o'clock a.m. and 10 o'clock a.m. Those are the ones that showed the greatest change. Okay, why did we choose a scale beginning at 60 that ranged to 90? Okay, I actually stopped at 85. I should have gone to 90. Okay, and we did this because our lowest number was 68. Highest number was 85. And then why were intervals of 5 the best choice? Okay, we're going to say it was easy to work with, and the range of numbers was not large. Okay, now it's time for you to do the problem. Go ahead and pause the video and we'll come back and check our answers. Don't forget to do the thinking and the question below the thinking on the bottom of the screen. Okay, and we're back. And because of time, I'm going to go through this very quickly. Okay, so in order to set this up, we are going to make a title. Okay, amount of weekly rainfall. Okay, you should have had a title, something of this nature. Okay, on the x-axis is where we're going to put the days. And I'm just going to put MTW for the different days of the week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay, and then obviously we have a scale of 1 to 10, so I'm just going to use, starting at 0, we're just going to literally go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because we have enough spots. Okay, but if we didn't, we could count by 2s, 5s, 10s, and so on. Okay, and then if we used these starting with Monday and 1 inch of rain, okay, over here we want to write inches of rain. Sorry, we want to always label the X and the Y axes. Inches of rain. Okay, I'm going to do my first ordered pair, which would be Monday, and it would be 1 inch. Tuesday would give us 3 inches. Wednesday would give us 4 inches. Thursday would give us 7 inches. Friday would be 8, and Saturday would be 10 inches of rain. Okay, and when we plot the points, we're going to want to create a line graph by connecting each plotted point with a line segment. Oh, that's kind of wonky, but we get the idea. We can see that it is increasing, and between which 2 days was there the least amount of rainfall? That means the lowest amount. And we actually have a tie. It would be between Thursday and Friday, and between Tuesday and Wednesday, because it's only 1 inch here and only 1 inch here. So it's kind of a trick question. All right, let's go ahead and reflect on our learning. Go ahead and record your end of unit lesson scale, and we'll see you in class tomorrow.